Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton and Mary Kate Love with you here on Supply Chain. Now, welcome to today's live stream. Mary Kate, how you doing today?
Doing great. Super excited about this one.
We are too. We are too. And hey, we even tackled in the pre-show the dream NBA Finals matchup, the Hawks, the Chicago Bulls, and the Atlanta Hawks. And as I think of it, they may be in the same division, but anyway, so maybe
I
they
love
couldn't
it.
make the finals. But regardless, folks, NBA basketball aside, as Mary Kate said, looking to forward to a great show today. We're diving in on a topic that many organizations overlook, I would say, to their financial peril. That's maintenance repair operations, MRO, and the
Yeah.
absolute gold mine of bottom line opportunities and beyond that it poses. Hey, we're going to be talking, as Mary Kate knows, with a few business leaders that have a proven track record of helping organizations to right size their MRO materials in storerooms, across their networks, and especially on their balance sheets. Mary Kate, should be a great show, huh?
Yeah, I love this because it's a purpose-built solution, right? That can plug into your existing ERP system and drive results pretty immediately. So I'm super excited about this. And they're a former employer of mine, so doubly excited.
Well, and that's right. And they're full of great, innovative, great people making big things
Definitely.
happen, new things happen across global business and global supply chain. So we can't wait to have them back. Hey, speaking of great people, we got Ben Santiago watching from Irving, Texas via LinkedIn. Ben, great to see you here today. Looking forward to your take. And Maria is back with us via LinkedIn from beautiful city of Madrid, Spain. You ever been there, Mary Kate?
No, and do you know what? It's next on my list.
Okay.
I need a Europe trip ASAP. It's just the problem with the two babies. I'm not bringing them with.
Well, hey, we can't wait to make that happen, and we'll see lots of pics from your
Yes.
beautiful European vacation. Okay. Hey, two quick things before we introduce our guests here today. Let us know what you think. Share your comments throughout the live discussion, just like Ben and Maria did. Let us know what you're thinking about the topics we uncover here today. And of course, if you enjoy today's show, folks, do your neighbor, do your friends, do your colleagues a favor, share it with them. They'll be glad you did. Okay. Mary Kate, we got a lot to get to work on here today. Want to welcome in our featured guest, Danny Ramos, Senior Manager, Product Management with Verison, and one of our OGs here at Supply Chain Now, Paul Noble, Founder and Chief Strategy Officer with Verison. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you all? Good to see you.
Wonderful. Great to have you back. And Danny, how you doing, man?
Doing well, doing well. How y'all doing?
Wonderful.
This
We're
is
coast to
an
coast, just about.
all-star crew here.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Love it.
I think so.
All right. Well, and we got let's see. Navin is tuned in via LinkedIn here in ATL. Great to see you here. Josh Ferguson's with us here
Oh,
from
Josh.
Ohio.
Love
Great to
it.
see you, Josh. And I agree. Mary Kate and I both agree. Madrid is one of the best cities in the world, Maria, and great to have you here today. All right. So Paul, Danny, and Mary Kate, before we get into a lot of cool things related to optimizing supply chain, certainly optimizing MRO, and a lot more, I got a fun warm up question for all three of y'all. So, did you know on this week, way back in 2008, video streaming service Hulu was launched? The service now has close to 50 million subscribers. Now, speaking of streaming services, now there's almost 50 million of them from
Yeah,
Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Apple Plus, Billy Bob, Super Fast Flicks. Hey,
yeah.
you
Right.
name it, lots of streaming services. So the question is, and Paul, you're going to be the leadoff hitter here, the old Kenny Lofton from back in the day. What
Oh,
is
very
one?
nice reference.
What is one of your favorite all-time movies or shows that you still stream somewhere on a regular basis?
Yeah, no, I mean there's a lot, but the one that's top of mind right now is new season is out, Curb Your Enthusiasm
Ooh,
on HBO Max or Max now
yeah.
as they've rebranded. Great show. Larry David, has put together two of the top probably 5 or 10 best series, comedic series of all time with Seinfeld
For
and Curb Your
sure.
Enthusiasm.
Yes, huge Seinfeld fan over here.
Yeah,
Completely.
yeah.
All of us, I bet. And we
Yeah,
just we got to make sure we can't have Larry, David, and Elmo be in the same room with each
Yes.
other.
Yes.
All those headlines. All right. So, Danny, that's going to be a tough one to top. Danny, what's your go-to?
Yeah, I think the show I kind of keep coming back to is The Good Place. Probably watched through it, my wife and I a handful of times, but it's it's nice, lighthearted, good background noise.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Love it. The Good Place. I'm going to have to write that one down and check it out. All right, Mary Kate, we got Curb Your Enthusiasm. We got The Good Place. What about yours?
I really like travel shows, as kind of like Danny was talking about, some comfort background noise. And I've been watching that Somebody Feed Phil. I don't know if you
Okay.
guys have ever seen it.
Mhm.
Awesome
That's
show
great.
if you like food and travel.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. And it's funny. Phil's a real funny guy.
Yeah, he wrote Everybody Loves Raymond, I think,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I saw the Raymond from that show. I can't remember his name right off, the actor. Real funny. Of
Ray
course.
Romano.
Yeah, Ray
Romano,
Romano
yeah.
joined Phil for an episode or two, and those discussions were really
Yes.
cool.
Yep.
All right. So, Mary Kate, Paul, Danny, we got a lot to get into here today. I appreciate y'all's weighing in on a fun warm-up question. I want to get into the conversation about level setting a little bit. Now, Paul, man, you're out in the big city of Las Vegas for the SAP Supply Chain Innovation Days Conference.
Yeah.
And hey, quick piece of advice: bet the farm on Red 19. We're talking about that in the warm-up show. But hey, what's some of your key takeaways from that awesome event this week so far?
Yeah, it has been a really great event. It's not a huge trade show like SAP does with Sapphire, but it's focused and intimate. A lot of collaboration between customers and their respective SAP AEs and supply chain experts. The great thing has been, as we kind of segue into the discussion around MRO. Everyone's been over the past couple of years building their supply chain tech stack, right? It starts with, upgrading ERP, EAM, centralizing to, a single global instance and things of that nature. And now they're plugging in purpose-built solutions and looking for ways to, connect the dots between ERP, EAM, and procure-to-pay systems and get the most out of their investment there. And enable their people with, intelligent, innovative solutions. So what we've seen is MRO is really top of mind and being folded into transformational strategies that has us very excited that, we've, been building and ready to support customers to deliver both economic and operational value.
Mm-hmm.
Paul and Mary Kate, get your quick comment first. That's the good place in my mind. That's the good news. You got organizations that take technology and empower their teams.
Yeah.
Mary Kate, your quick comment.
Yeah, I love to hear that because, we've seen people kind of ignore MRO or think, hey, this is just part of business and we can't really innovate or get better here. So, we've all seen the benefits of being able to innovate with MRO or being able to visualize your data, right? So exciting to hear that people are catching up.
Yeah,
I am
absolutely.
too. And visualizing so folks can really see what we're talking about. I think for a lot of visual learners like me out there, that's so important. So getting that data out of spreadsheets, getting that data off legal books, and being able to put it in ways where we can really see it in a powerful fashion. Danny, keeping the conversation going, I got a two-parter for you, my friend. You come highly regarded, so you can do this stuff in your sleep. I know, Danny.
You can.
So two-parter. First off, what have you been hearing from Verisign customers? There's a growing ocean of Verisign customers these days. Y'all been growing left and right. And secondly, I'm always curious, especially about adoption, right? Adoption is so critical these days. From what you've seen, what makes business leaders and their organizations really hesitant when it comes to adopting new technology?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, I think to kind of answer that first thing, what we're hearing pretty frequently is folks are kind of going back to trying to cut costs, right? The pendulum has kind of swung back from where folks were in the pandemic, and we're really trying to shed a lot of the fat that they've added to their inventory and accumulated there, which interestingly leads to some hesitation around some new technology. The other thing that we're hearing quite a bit as well is folks are really trying to do a lot more with less. So trying to consolidate and centralize some of their inventory management to do some smarter buying, to be more efficient with their deployment of their existing assets, and also to kind of get more out of their existing technological investments, right?
Yeah.
And that feeds right into kind of where that hesitation comes from. Typically when we hear folks pushing back on making, technology investments, it falls into a couple different buckets, right? So either folks have already spent, millions of dollars digitizing their operations, and they're disappointed by the results, right? Like they've been promised these digital transformations, they've been promised all of these great things, and some of them materialize and some of them don't. And I think some of that scar tissue makes folks a little hesitant to introduce new technologies. The other big thing that we hear really frequently is people don't think their data is good enough. They operate under an assumption that their data is too poor to do anything useful with it, so they can't do anything with it. And that prevents them from moving on to new things. And really, the last bucket that we see pretty commonly is there's just a hesitation to introduce new processes and new tools for folks that are already overburdened. Right? There's already a lot of technology that's been introduced in the last 10 or 15 years, and adding one more thing into the flow sometimes feels like a little bit too much for some folks.
Danny, that is out. I mean, I'd love to dive with a couple hours on each of those things. Mary Kate, I want to get you to weigh in here. That scar tissue that Danny referenced during the first part of his response is so critical because folks have heard it all before, right? And sometimes, to Danny's point, it does truly come to fruition. Other times, it crashes and burns because a lot of executives they throw it over the fence.
Yeah.
For the teams that kind of figured out. Your thoughts, Mary Kate?
Yeah, totally. Like, I was on a huge ERP transformation project, and what I love about, Verison is that it can really go a mile deep, right? So they're solving a very specific problem, and they're not, pretending like an ERP system that could, say do everything and anything, right? This solves a very specific problem. And I just want to call out the fact that Danny said your data doesn't have to be perfect, because that holds so many people back from, starting things like this. And I just love how, the fact that no one's data is perfect, right? So you can still work with imperfect data.
Yes. Excellent point. You can still, that's right. And that's a really important point for folks that are listening to this conversation and watching this conversation to take with them into their post-event conversations, right? You don't have to have perfect data to do big things, right? All right, Mary Kate, Paul, Danny, good stuff here. And Naven, you asked a great question, and thanks for being here, by the way, via LinkedIn. We're going to come touch on this, I believe, in this next question I'm going to pose to Danny. And Naven's asking about, what is MRO? So to tee this up as we move forward, lots of organizations, no matter what the economic conditions are, right, they're still planning to pursue significant cost reduction opportunities over the coming year. They got to, right? And a lot of that uncertainty for where we're going adds more fuel to that fire, in my view, at least. So, Danny, kind of a little bit of speaking to Naven's question there, and then this one. Why is MRO optimization such a big-time untapped gold mine for many organizations? And give us some examples of the types of opportunities that exist around cost savings here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that we see is that the organizations that are really setting themselves apart are those that recognize that treating MRO as a first-class citizen is critically important and also leads to really meaningful competitive advantages. You can use MRO as a meaningful strategic differentiator because, not only is preventative maintenance always cheaper in the long run than reactive maintenance, but these organizations are using MRO as a sandbox for new techniques, new technologies that they want to experiment with before moving those into other parts of the organization. So that differentiation of MRO is a strategic point to MK's point earlier, right? Some folks just say this is kind of the way we've been doing things. Right. It doesn't have to be that way any longer, right? There's meaningful strategic ground to make up in MRO, and I guess some examples of kind of what that looks like is a big push to centralize control of inventory and especially things like critical spares, right? That's something that we help organizations with all the time. And, for a lot of organizations that are handling MRO at the local level, so each facility is kind of their own Wild West doing whatever they want to do, it seems like a pipe dream to be able to kind of centralize. But, there's a ton of incentives for doing so, right? It helps with those pushes to cut costs and bring that working capital down. It really helps those organizations be more proactive with part sharing instead of reactive when a line goes down and they got to grab something, they're scrambling. And it also, does things like allow for more strategic sourcing because you can push for friendlier contractual terms if you have a better idea of kind of what the overall organizational spend is for your MRO parts.
Well said. Mary Kate, Danny just offered a litany of things I would, we could spend hours talking about, and lots of really good conversation. But what do you think in Danny's response there? What's one thing that folks really need to wrap their head around, especially when it comes to MRO and optimizing that within?
I literally wrote down preventative maintenance is always cheaper than reactive maintenance, right? I love that call out. I can relate to that. I think everyone can relate to that. But also, I love this idea, right, of being able to share or have visibilities between facilities within the same company because, I've worked at a lot of places that have grown by acquisition on different kind of using different items in their tech stack, and you're not always able to see what pieces are on hand across different facilities in the same organization. So that's huge too.
Agreed. And to one of the things that Danny said, hey, don't give in to that. We just can't centralize. There are opportunities there, and much like imperfect data, there are actionable opportunities there. So, man, we're giving Danny a high five, and he disappears. That happens sometimes. Paul, I want to keep driving here. We'll get Danny back.
He dropped the mic.
That's right.
Yeah, he literally dropped the mic.
That's right. And by the way, Ben just chimed in too. So true. Having visibility across facilities is a game changer. Completely agree, Ben. And it's a game changer more within your reach out there than what you may be thinking here today or at this moment. Paul, so let's keep gaining clarity here. Kind of some of the comments in the chat here. Great to have you back, Danny. Those things happen, my friend. Paul said that you just dropped the mic and you were out. You went out like the stands.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Paul, what do y'all mean when you talk about MRO optimization? Let's get really clear because it's not just cutting inventory costs, right?
No. Yeah. So if you look at, MRO is really a big insurance policy, right? So you're keeping things on hand that you need so that you don't have the risk of downtime. You want to produce your products. So I'm going to store these things, critical items, non-critical items, things that keep my people safe so we can produce product. And so if you're looking at it as a risk exercise, you look at data, right? Data feeds the ability to understand what's going on. You look at inventory, like that's what I'm going to carry. And I would carry no inventory if I could, but I can't. So what do I need to carry to make sure that I don't have risk of downtime? And then, where do I need to supply that inventory? So it's really confirming what we're doing is let's look at all the data. Let's create and establish demand by material, by plant, across a network of plants. What does the company need so we can produce our products reliably and reduce that risk? And let's do it in a capital efficient way, right? Let's cut down the insurance policy without introducing, opening ourselves up to risk. And that's really been the trouble. It's been attacked, Ops looks at inventory. Hey, let's carry more. That'll keep us less risk averse.
Right.
Hey, where do we need to source it from? And it became, like to Danny's point, like very reactive, and the insurance policy has just ballooned over the years, right? And just keep adding more and more and more. So what we're doing is essentially, hey, let's look at everything, cross people, cross processes, cross systems, across the entire organization. Let's establish that demand, and then let's strategically look at what do I need to inventory, where do I need to inventory it, what do I need to buy, where do I need to source it from, and put a risk profile to that. So what we're really doing is managing risk, building trust that you'll have what you need where you need it, and just simplifying that dramatically because it is pretty complex when you look at it.
Well said, Paul. The 1985 approach would be just to keep adding inventory, but that is not the smartest approach, and it's certainly not the 2024 or even 2030 approach. So good stuff there, Paul. I want to throw in, before we keep driving here, throw in this great comment. Memory, so great to have you back with us. Always enjoy your contributions here. She says, this is one category that is overlooked, and it has a treasure trove of value capabilities to contribute to the bottom line. Most risk here, and this is what Paul was talking about, lies because it's a section people react to rather than take a proactive approach. And I think we were talking about that on the front end. Memory, great call out. Appreciate what you're doing out in industry as a practitioner. All right, keep driving, Danny. By the way, that was Shakespearean, as memory just kind of constructed that feedback, wasn't it? Danny, I want you to tell us, talk AI. We can't have a supply chain conversation in 2024. Right. It's government mandated that we've got to drop in AI. Tell us how AI is truly changing how people utilize that data we've been talking about and those valuable, actionable insights that we can pull from it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the big thing is that AI really unlocks the value of data that organizations have been amassing over the years, whether that's, because you've been digitizing some of your supply chain, because you've been, growing through acquisition, you're pulling in disparate systems. AI really helps you make sense of that and in two really kind of profound ways. It helps you make sense of large amounts of data in ways that humans can't, right? It doesn't matter how good you are at Excel. It doesn't matter how impressive your Power BI dashboards are. AI can just handle more data than the human mind is capable of. And that's going to become even more important as the data organizations continues to grow through, IoT and other things like that. I think the other thing, kind of going back to an earlier point, is it can make sense out of your dirty data, right? So the old adage of garbage in, garbage out doesn't really apply in the same way in a world where AI is available, because you can take that data that might be of, let's call it, poor quality or not the best quality, and still draw meaningful insights out of it. It's easier to figure out where you have parts. It's easier to figure out where you might have some contract leakage. It's easier to figure out some of these kinds of things that would have been, kind of scattered to the wind before. And it can also take bits and pieces of that institutional knowledge that might live in ERP and actually, bring some of that to the surface and bring some of that information out so others can use it. And all of this really just means you have better visibility into what's actually happening kind of at the ground level. And with that, you can do more interesting things, right? You can do some of the kind of the part sharing, some of the collaboration, and some of the stuff that we've been talking about already this afternoon.
Yes, sheer capacity and powerful clarity. If I had to take a lot of what you just shared there, those two incredible things. And I like that, scattered to the wind, like dust, like some song in the 80s. I can't remember who sang that. Mary Kate, let's get back to AI and the powerful ways that it is working with data. Your thoughts, Mary Kate?
Yeah, listen, I think we're collecting more and more data, right? Everybody's collecting more. They don't know what to do with it. So AI is the perfect solution to that, right? Like Danny said, there's no way we could process all the data that we take in on a daily basis, and putting AI on top of it to make sense of that data and to make the data, easier for you to search, easier for you to visualize, has huge impact down the line.
That's right. Absolutely agree. Great point there. All right. Hey, man, Naven's bringing it here today. And maybe this is something, maybe Paul and Danny will have to grab a cup of coffee with Naven afterwards. But maybe we can work this in, because Naven's talking about, that low MRO maturity versus the high MRO maturity. And we're going to be speaking to the benefits of that, of the forward-thinking organizations in just a moment versus the laggards. Because, folks, the other big takeaway, one of many here, is if you're a laggard and you're not leaning into powerful outcome-driving ways with AI and many other innovative technologies, the distance between the performing organizations and the folks that are slow to embrace and adopt is getting bigger and bigger. Randy, thank you very much. Kansas saying dust in the wind. That is right. Thanks so much for being here.
Shout out to old Greg White in Kansas, right?
Yes.
That's right. That is right. All right. So, Paul, Mary Kate, and Danny, covering lots of ground here today. One of the things that Danny touched on in his response there, and Mary Kate did as well, is visibility. And Paul, one of the things you mentioned in your last response was risk mitigation, risk management that is inseparable from supply chain leadership and business leadership these days. So, Paul, how does visibility help companies remove risk?
Yeah, it's important because, for so long, systems, processes, people, challenges have limited the availability for, satisfying what I need as an individual at a facility from an MRO perspective, versus, what is that demand that I need? How does that impact the company, right? What does the company need holistically, right? So,
right.
You have all these decentralized individual demands, but let's look at that demand and give visibility so that cross function, cross business unit, cross system. We can look at, the holistic demand, satisfy that through supply, and get you what you need by material, by plant, but also satisfy, the overall risk profile of the business. And that's where we, the title of this, webinar, where there's a lot of gold locked up, you wouldn't have a $10 million insurance policy on your home if it was only a $500,000 home. Why are you doing the same thing with MRO? Why are you carrying $400 million in stock when you could more easily satisfy the needs of the individual and work with your suppliers more effectively and extend that network outside of your four walls? That visibility is possible. You are ready, whether you think you are or not, and we can meet you where you're at in your maturation, right? So we have a discussion here with at SAP, a co-presentation with Georgia Pacific, one of our earliest customers. Super mature company as it pertains to MRO, and we could take them to the next level. If you're lower on that maturity profile, we'll meet you there, and we'll help you get to centralized strategies and that visibility, so you can work again with your counterparts in procurement and operations and reliability and engineering. It takes a village to run MRO effectively, and we can help there. So
yes, you can. You've demonstrated it time and time again. And as Paul alludes to, they're working with organizations at Verison that are further down the path of the maturity curve and finding really big opportunities. And those are just kind of starting and are kind of taking initial steps and finding big opportunities there as well. Good stuff there, Paul. Mary Kate, so I loved Paul's analogy there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love a good analogy, and that insurance policy one is good.
Yes. So give us your take on anything Paul just mentioned there, Mary Kate.
Yeah. So the insurance policy, right? That totally makes sense. Makes it click probably for myself and a lot of people. But I also love this idea of visibility, because you can't really you definitely can't make the best business decisions without that visibility. So that is step number one that everyone needs to have.
Yes. Yes. And you are ready, as Paul wrapped up his response. I think the Four Tops sang a great song featuring those words there. Hey, music's on my mind today, folks. But Paul, good stuff there. And I love this theme that's emerging, amongst other things, is that, folks, you are in better position than you think to take advantage of innovative things in supply chain and not do business as usual as if it's 1985. All right. Let's see where we're going next, Paul. I want you to put your shades on for a second. I don't know if they're handy, but I want you, we're kind of talking about current opportunities, right? Current opportunities. Yeah. But where do you think the future of supply chain technology is headed, Paul?
Yeah, we recently wrote an article in Forbes talking about, all right, here are these systems of record that everyone has, right? Most organizations, have an ERP, or thinking about or in the process of upgrading that, moving from on-prem to cloud. We have a procure-to-pay system. These are all processes and systems of transaction and systems of record. EAM system, as we're talking MRO, and we'll be talking here at SAP about asset management. So all of these systems of record are essential to run your business. But the future of supply chain, they can only do so much. So the future of supply chain, from our perspective, is purpose-built intelligent solutions that can be the connective tissue between those systems of record. Let them be the transactional systems. Let us fill in with Verison for MRO, and across the stack, when you're looking at direct materials, finished goods, logistics, you're going to be plugging in intelligent systems across that stack. And that really, to us, is what the future is going to look like, so that you can pass the baton appropriately and run more efficiently and get to your outcome of, track and trace, all the holy grail things that everyone says, oh, it'd be beautiful if we could do this, but we can't because of data and all this. Mm-hmm. that's changing. And so that's how you need to look at how are you architecting that stack to support your business. And these purpose-built solutions like Verison and like many others that are emerging across that stack are going to be super important to getting you there.
Mhm.
Yes. Mary Kate, being the Seinfeld buff that you are, architecting your stack as Paul, that's George Costanza's dream, I bet.
Yeah.
But when Paul's talking about the art of the possible there, though, I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's all at our fingertips to act in ways to do. Your quick thoughts there, Mary Kate, before I move to Danny.
Yeah, I love thinking about that, where the systems of records, right, they go, a mile wide, but an inch deep, and you need to have a mix up of purpose-built solutions that are able to go a mile deep and an inch wide, right? And so, that's finding the right partners, that's finding the right solutions, and plugging them into your existing systems. It's not a whole overhaul of all your systems, right? It's being able to plug and play the right partners essentially for your company.
Well said, Mary
Oh,
Kate.
there's the shades.
Your timing is just about impeccable, Paul.
Yeah,
Nearly.
Nearly. But Mary Kate, on that last point, kidding aside, those partners, that ecosystem we're building, the ecosystem that involves, of course, all the organizations, but also the technologies, right? It's such a great call out there. All right, so Danny, I want to put you to put a fine point on this here, especially the question as to how. So how is Verison working to close that gap between functional areas like maintenance and reliability and the good people there, and then with their procurement counterparts and the good people there? How is Verison doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're doing it in a couple different ways. I think one of the primary ways is providing a shared sense of visibility, right? We've talked a lot about systems of record and kind of augmenting those with systems of routine. And, these disparate groups can use a tool like Verison to get a sense of what reality is across their organization, across their facilities, across their systems, instead of being tied to, procurements and procure to pay. You have your operations folks in the AMs and ERP. You can start to bring everybody together to a kind of a shared sense of the truth. And the other thing that we're doing there is we're pulling in the human element. So we're capturing inputs from folks on the front line, and it becomes a lot easier to accept some changes to your kind of ways of doing business if you feel like you've had a say in the matter. And then those two things kind of coming together. So that shared visibility and capturing some of that institutional knowledge is really letting these two organizations, kind of within companies, make some really data-driven decisioning, right? So if we can get procurement and operations folks to agree to a shared version of the truth coming out of their digital systems, and we can give the folks responsible for actual maintenance a voice, then we can help these organizations get to much more effective decisions. And it helps eliminate in a lot of ways too, kind of the emotional nature that has been a big part of MRO, where folks are making decisions because of an outage that happened 10 years ago, and they're going to keep a bunch of stock because of that, right?
Yeah.
So we can build more trust between these two groups, and as those two groups start to collaborate more with each other, and see that it's not the end of the world, they're not going to have a ton of outages, the risk isn't really going to grow substantially, they can really start focusing on what's best for the organization and taking some of those next steps into kind of greater maturity.
Danny, well said. And I knew you were going to drop the T word there, because if you didn't, I was going to. But that building trust, right? Mary Kate, I bet we could all raise our hand. I bet a lot of folks in our audience could raise their hand if you've been in a manufacturing operation with 3 or 4 different functional areas, and everyone brings their spreadsheets, and they all disagree. There is no shared sense of truth, as Danny put it. And when you can address that, and you can bring teams together, and gain that alignment, and also, by the way, give humans, empower the human element.
Yeah.
The trust you gain and the mountains you can move with said trust is world class. Mary Kate, your quick thoughts there.
Yeah, I love this because, it's combining human intelligence with data, right? And that's the ultimate goal, because like Danny said, if you ever worked in a manufacturing facility, you've heard the story about the unplanned downtime that happened 6 years ago and how they solved it in this crazy way, right? And so that's great, and we don't want to forget that, but we also need to use data to make our decisions, and having that kind of single source of truth, or the shared truth, like Danny said, can only help within an organization.
That's right. That is right. All right, Paul, as we start to wrap, we've got some great resources we're going to make sure we share with folks. We're going to make sure folks know how to connect with the one and only OG Paul Noble, who's again in Vegas. You might catch him and talk supply chain and maybe talk some some casino action. Of course, Danny on the other coast, based in Jacksonville, but he's out and about making things happen across the industry. But Paul, as we kind of want to spike the football on the conversation here today, beyond everything we've talked about, which I believe is going to open up some eyes, we see some comments there along those ends. And it's also what's also find interesting about the comments is there's a lot of folks that already get what you are talking about, and it sounds like they're saying, yeah, my organization, they've ignored this massive opportunity, and then finally they've put it in a headlock and is delivering big outcomes. But beyond everything we've talked about here today, tell us why, Paul, to that end, tell us why MRO optimization's got to be a top priority for organizations out there.
Yeah, it's essential to running the business, right? You can't produce your product if you're uncertain of what's happening. And I think there, as we've come out of a trying time, from a pandemic perspective, and supply chain is a competitive advantage, and all the things that we've talked about over the last couple of years, I think being able to turn to a part of your business that can help kind of lead the way of unlocking not only capital but also the way you approach things from an availability and a demand perspective. I think it's really, really important to bring those hardworking people together and give them the tools that they need to be able to reliably produce what they're charged to do from a job perspective. I think it's been too overlooked for too long, and there is a simple and effective and fast way to really wrap your arms around it and be able to be kind of a shining star within the organization that'll lead and influence how you attack things across your business in other ways. Yes.
And folks, you are ready more than you think to steal Paul's challenge from earlier in the conversation. All right. I got to go back to this analogy too, Mary Kate, because I think a lot of folks that may not get everything, all the ins and outs related to MRO. I think everyone can relate to insurance. And as someone that has driven, I think 5 Honda Accords in my lifetime, yes, I may be the most boring person in the world. Hey, I love Honda Accords. There's no need to get an insurance policy as if you're driving a Ferrari. If your need is a Honda Accord, and that is a great analogy, I think, when it comes to the solution that Paul and Danny the approach that Paul and Danny are talking about. Mary Kate, your quick comment, and then I've got a question, a very practical question in terms of how to get started, which I think we hear all the time during and after a lot of these types of shows. We're going to get Paul and Danny to weigh in on that. But Mary Kate, whether it's our favorite analogy out there or a Seinfeld reference or something that maybe you having insider knowledge of kind of what Verison's been doing for years, what is something else that folks really got to know from what Paul and Danny are saying here?
I think that it's easy, right? It doesn't require this huge months-long project with your IT, and it's not scary when it comes to implementing this. I think it's easy, and I think it empowers people. It doesn't work against the people in your organization. It just empowers them to make better decisions.
Well said. And that, I tell you, whether you're addressing MRO opportunities or really any other aspect of global supply chain, enabling and empowering your team to make better decisions faster, that they're confident in, that they get more right more often, man, that's a big part of the game, at least. All right. So Paul and Danny, here's the $1 billion question, because inflation and such. I want y'all, Paul, I want you to tell us, because we get this question a lot. I love this conversation, but how do I get started? Paul, what would be your answer for folks that may want to, partner with Verison, and what's that first step there?
Yeah, I think we've continued as we've gone to market over the last kind of couple years. I think we're 4th year in market. supporting customers, we try to make it as easy as possible for us to define a business case for you. So like reach out, let's have a conversation. I think, very few, we don't want to do business with you if you're not ready, but odds are you are.
Mhm.
And so let's have a conversation, and we have a pretty simple business case tool that we can turn around for you in less than a week or about a week. That can find a business case of, let us tell you what the data is showing us, and let's have a conversation around it. And it's MRO health check, and it's been really successful in being able to, bridge the gap of, that FOMO, that fear of messing up, or
Mhm.
am I ready? Do I have enough? Is it too complex? Is it overwhelming? No, let's simplify it. Let's have a conversation, and we'll be your partner to get you there, whether you're, on the lower end of that maturity curve, or you want to go to the next level and really, and you're very mature from that perspective. So I think that's the easiest way to get started is let's have a simple conversation. Let's show you how we attack it. And we've been, very, very successful in doing that.
Well said. And I love, you've used that acronym with us before, Paul. FOMO, fear
I've never
of
heard of that. Yeah, I
messing
like it.
up. Mary Kate, we got to keep it real. Every organization has varying degrees of that FOMO that either hinders people
Yeah.
from taking action and doing things and making decisions, or in other cases, leadership has really empowered them. Hey, we're going to mess up some of the times, but we're going to
Right.
get big gains by making decisions. Your quick thoughts there, Mary Kate, and we're going to work to get Danny back because he's got some cool things also as it relates to where do we get started. Your thoughts, Mary
Yeah.
Kate?
Yeah, I love that acronym. And I do think it starts with leadership, right? Of being able to say, hey, we need to try these new things. And again, I want to reiterate, it's very easy to get implemented and set up. So this fear of messing up is probably one that you carry from a project 10 years ago, right? Or something else that you did. So I just want to reiterate how easy it is to kind of work with these purpose-built solutions.
Love it. We all love easy in this world of hard and complex
Yes.
challenges for sure. All right. So Danny, in the pre-show, we were talking about some of the cool things that Verison's rolled out to kind of for folks to kick the tires and get more comfortable and better understand, kind of how y'all operate. What are some of those things that maybe folks need to know here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, beyond what Paul was talking about, with our ability to help you generate that business case before you kind of get too far into the sales process. Another thing that we've been doing over the last few months here is actually doing some pretty informal, little demo webinars on a bi-weekly basis. So folks can actually take a look at the application, see what we got, see what we're doing, without necessarily committing to a full sales conversation or all that kind of stuff. So it's an easy way to kind of get your feet wet and see if we'd be a good fit and assess whether or not, we're gonna be able to help you out.
Love that, Danny. Love that. It's important to give folks lots of opportunities to gather information and get a sense of how what y'all do or any approach, any team kind of fits within their organization, so they'll know that they're not wasting time. As Mary Kate said, because it's easy.
Yes.
And Paul said, you're ready. So why not step through this window of opportunity and make things happen? Your people will certainly appreciate it. All right. So speaking, Danny, Paul, and Mary Kate, of resources, I think we've got 3 that we want to share from the Verison team. And here's the first one. And I love this, how this is entitled. Stop relying on manual processes for MRO and indirect material management. Now, as we were talking pre-show, Mary Kate, Paul, and Danny, you look at most research out there, error rates for manual data entry range from 1% to 4%. That's kind of the well-established range. But I was sharing with y'all in certain environments I've been in, especially ages and ages ago. I mean, it's easily double digits. And I knew that firsthand because I was part of a data integrity team. So folks, stop relying on manual processes. Number 2, 5 reasons, count them, 5 reasons manufacturers haven't achieved MRO optimization. And folks, we're going to drop the links right there in the chat. You're 1 click away from checking these out. And these are great, succinct, I think 2.5 page reads, which is my favorite part, because in this complex environment we're in, who's got time for a 27 page or 270 page white paper? And then this last one, it's time to move beyond a traditional ERP strategy. And folks are saying out there across our listening audience, hallelujah, amen. Preach it louder for the folks in the back. I love these three pieces here, Paul and Danny. Mary Kate, if you had to pick one of those up, what's one of those messages that resonate the most with you?
I'm going to go with the ERP, moving beyond a traditional ERP strategy, because an ERP system is not going to do everything and anything for you. We all need the ERP system. It's great, right? But we need to find purpose-built solutions to be able to solve specific problems in our companies.
Well said. I agree. Okay, so Paul Noble, back by popular demand. OG. I'm not sure what appearance this is, but it's probably got to be in the 20s. I think you still rank atop the list.
At least, yeah.
So, but man, Verison, y'all been helping a lot of organizations growing left and right, leaning on your innovational approach to doing business different. I'm partial, but that resonates with me. There's a reason why we've enjoyed our conversations and we get a lot of feedback from these shows. So let's make sure folks know how to connect with Paul and Danny. Paul, let's start with you. Beyond Vegas. So folks are out in Vegas. They may can catch up with you this week at that great event. But how else would you suggest people connect with you, Paul?
Yeah, obviously, any of the Verison channels, right? So at Verison AI and most of the social channels, and Paul at Verison.com. Like if you're thinking about questions, partnering, opportunities, or just want to have a conversation, feel free to reach out. And we'd be happy to have that conversation.
Wonderful. And if you need help with your jump shot, Paul, you're the guy too, right? Love that. All right. So Danny Ramos, great to have you here. Really have enjoyed our conversations, appreciate conversations, and a lot of what you shared here today, because it is a wild, wild west out there, as you were talking about. We need proven solutions that make things easier, give folks more clarity, that brings down that fear of messing up and allows people to make decisions that really impact in a positive manner the bottom line. And this is what we're talking about here today. How can folks connect with you, Danny?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly through all the same kind of Verison channels that Paul alluded to. Unfortunately, I'm not quite as OG as Paul, so you got to use danny.ramos@verison.com if you want to email me instead of just the first name. Yeah, obviously on LinkedIn as well. You might see more facial hair on LinkedIn, but I promise it's still me.
It is the same good guy that knows what they're doing and is moving mountains out there. Danny, it's been a pleasure to get to know you better, and I really enjoyed your perspective here today. All right, so Mary Kate, while we still have Paul and Danny, and before I sign off, and folks really enjoyed a lot of the comments and questions, and we couldn't get to all of them, but we encourage you, hopefully we can connect and power some conversations beyond today's live stream with you and the Verison team. Mary Kate, so you kind of got some inside baseball, right? Because you've seen being a part of the Verison team, and now, of course, part of the Supply Chain Now team. This conversation, we were talking about it. This is going to be a great one, because not only are we familiar with it, but in some cases we've seen the outcomes it can power. So what's the one thing out of all the brilliance that Danny and Paul backed up the truck and dropped it on here today? What's the one thing that folks got to take home with them?
I'm going to go back to the preventative maintenance is always cheaper than reactive maintenance. And that's trademarked by Danny. I love that because, you'll do anything to avoid unplanned downtime. And so you've got to be proactive about that. You cannot be reactive.
I like that as well. It's a kind of different version of a Ben Franklinism, if I'm not mistaken. I love that, Danny. And Mary Kate said you trademarked it. So that is Danny's. We'll owe you some licensing.
Keep an eye out for the T-shirts and the mugs.
Yeah, right.
Coming soon,
All right. Well, folks, really have enjoyed the conversation. Very efficient conversation here today. Thanks for being out there and being a part. Thanks for all y'all submittals. Big thanks to Paul Noble and Danny Ramos with Verison. Y'all, great work. Keep up the good fight, doing big things out there. I look forward to reconnecting with you both soon. Mary Kate, really enjoyed today's conversation. Thanks for being here and bringing your color commentary as always, hitting home runs. Always a pleasure to knock out these conversations with you.
Yeah, this was great. Super awesome to be on it again with Danny and Paul.
That is right. But folks, now the onus is on you. Be sure to connect with Paul and Danny. Have that conversation. Don't sit on the fence. Check out these resources we dropped. We dropped them. You're one click away. Their links are in the chat. Do business different, folks. Your people will appreciate it. Deeds, not words. No one's got time for lip service leadership. Do business different. And on that note, on behalf of our entire team here at Supply Chain Now, Scott Luton challenging you to do good, to give forward, and to be the change. We'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.